Welcome to the show tonight. My name is Catherine Mwangi. This is What's Your Story here from Nairobi Serena Hotel. We're here to have a conversation with a man that is internationally recognized and celebrated, especially in the fields of academia, climate change, climate action, climate adaptation. He's no stranger in this part of the world because a few months ago, His Excellency the President of Kenya, Dr. William Ruto, appointed him as a Chancellor of the iconic University of Nairobi. FYI, this is a non-paid role, okay? So before I just walk to wherever he is, let's see a feature that describes just a tad bit more of who he is. This week on What's Your Story, we have the President and CEO of the Global Center on Adaptation. He also serves as the Chancellor of the University of Nairobi, recently appointed by President William Ruto.
I truly believe that climate adaptation in Africa has the potential to become an unstoppable force.
As the founding CEO of the GCA, Professor Patrick has built a global organization supporting climate adaptation projects in over 30 countries.
We can do all these things. You know why? Because we already are.
Working with heads of state and government from Africa, Asia, Europe, and the Americas, Professor Patrick has organized more than half a dozen summits of world leaders aimed at elevating the cause of climate adaptation, including as co-convener of the Global Commission on Adaptation. This is What's Your Story, where we believe that everyone has a story. There's something you said before the show, which I think you need to say now, so people get to understand your passion and your enthusiasm. I don't know, one of my crew members, I think it was Moses, who said something, and I answered. I said, yeah, we are okay. And you said, no, we are never okay.
No.
Yeah, what are we?
We have to achieve great things in life.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Life is very, very short. We will be judged at the end of our life what difference we have made. Do we aspire for small things? No, we don't,
no.
Catherine. We want to have impact at scale.
Yes.
What better place to do
Tell
that?
them.
At the University of Nairobi. Why? It's the premier institution of the country. It's a public university.
Yes.
So I think it's also a role model for partnering with other universities here. And we have a big plan to work towards.
Yes.
Not just locally, but we want to become the best university on the African continent.
Yes.
And why not, Catherine?
And why not?
We have all the assets. We have great faculty. We have great students.
Yes.
We have great ideas.
Yes.
What we now need is to work with the international community to partner with us. We're not beggars. We have great ideas to move forward, and we're going after them. I think that's the spirit of the University of Nairobi, which very strongly resonates with me indeed.
I love that. I mean, you're already putting me on fire, so we need to take a walk. We actually just having a walk as you have this conversation.
Why not?
So what I need to know is, did you always have this fire in your bones growing up? What was that for you like? Let's reminisce a bit.
On a sort of a very personal note, I lost my mother at a very young age.
Oh.
And during the time that she was with us, she always taught us that it is absolutely critical to be the best self of yourself every single day.
Yes.
But in life, when you lose your parents at a young age, you also realize life is short. And I know I'm a very impatient people. All my colleagues and family members remind me every single day.
Okay.
But it also keeps me very focused.
Yes.
That today, when the show is being aired, never comes back. So today we also want to have an impact. So that's basically the general approach to life, whether how I engage with my children, how I engage at work, how I engage with my friends, and how I engage with the international community.
So for you, it's like if you're not giving 100%, you're not giving nothing at all.
It's 1 or 0.
So what fond memory of childhood do you have, do you carry with you? I said we're reminiscing.
My strongest passion in life, besides my children, is football.
Oh.
So I had this sort of great ambition when I was a young boy to become a professional football player. Believe it or not, with all my limitations, I even made it to the national youth team of the Netherlands. And then sort of my limited talent but strong drive, that was sort of the ultimate stage I could reach.
Right.
Now having 5 children.
Okay.
One of which is a girl. Her name is Fleur, and she plays in the national youth team in the Netherlands. So I'm living my own childhood, so to say.
Through her.
Through her. So, no, so my childhood was like all childhoods, I guess, had sort of very positive sides, but as I just said, also had quite some challenges. Losing your mother at a young age, of course, is not easy.
Easy, no.
My father got remarried quite quickly thereafter, and you get, of course, these ideas. Who is she? I mean, a stepmother. That's kind of the complexity in life. But when you grow older, you realize as an adult that life is it's complex at times. And you take it as it is and try to make the best of it. So back to your question, do we do fine? No, we don't do fine. We make the best of things. The thing is this, Catherine, I'm sure it's the same for you. I love my work. As you said, the Chancellor job is unpaid. My day job is paid. But I don't even consider this as work.
No.
Not at all.
Because you're passionate about it and you love it.
I want to do this. I love to do this. So when President Ruto asked me, Patrick, we want as a country to put the University of Nairobi on the global stage. You could be the transmission bell between Nairobi and the global arena. Are you in for this? I was very, of course I was very humbled, but I thought this is great. And I also have to say, President Ruto is a very inspiring man. I know there are all sorts of camps in Kenya, and some are very much in support, and some are less so. As in any
democracy.
As any healthy democracy. But my engagement with him, he is a very executive president. That's exactly how I also am in life, very executive, transactional on what we want to get done. So, no, I don't see this as work. No. But I do want to see progress every single day on the things which I'm pushing.
It's what they talk about life purpose. Like when you find something that you can do without even getting paid for it.
Exactly.
You've hit it on the money.
Indeed.
So I think you have.
Exactly.
Yeah, and
I'm blessed.
Yeah, and being an academic, academia, like many years, and you'll talk about it. So for you to just come and,
But that is not just, you just mentioned, oh, PhD here, and that's true. And you went to Harvard, that is also true. But if you just look back at my, let's say, high school years, I mean, I completely was a dropout. Missed out on the grade. No, absolutely. I took extra years. I mean, at that time my father was at that time still alive. Thought, I mean, where is this boy going? He said he's going nowhere. And
your dad?
My dad thought when I was 15, 16, 17, 18, and at some point, boom, I transformed, in essence, myself by giving up on my football dream. And I thought, I now need to pursue something which I can basically control, which I invest in, and then something comes out of it. That became academia. So I did my master's degree. I started with philosophy, by the way. Master's in philosophy, master's in engineering, and then I had this dream. It's exactly the same dream I'm living now through the University of Nairobi. As a 20-year-old boy, I had this from a poor background in Dutch standards. I thought, I want to go to Harvard. I had to look on the map where Harvard was. I didn't know anyone at Harvard. I had no connection. I had no network. But I had this dream. And then I'm very brutal in a sense of pursuing that particular dream. And then years later, fast forward, it got me to Harvard. I had the best grades of Harvard. And Catherine, what is my strong conviction? It's not about how bright you are or what family background you have, whether you're rich or poor, because I come from a poor background. It is, do you have focus? And if you're focused, if you have the eye on the prize, you can make great things happen. And if you just translate that to the here and now, here in Nairobi. Here in Nairobi, we're launching now a transformation agenda. We call it the Big Five. 5 big ideas, which lifts the University of Nairobi. One of which is on leadership. Is it not great, Catherine? If you know President Ruto, alumnus from the University of Nairobi, the Deputy President, all sorts of ministers, Supreme Court, business leaders. But what if you're born in Mukuru? What if you're born in Makueni and you don't have the background which some of these leaders currently have, but you still want to go to the top? Would it not be great if we would have a leadership institute in this country at this public university, which basically has the equivalent level as Harvard? So in the last few weeks, I reached out to Harvard. I said, listen, I'm a proud alumnus of
Harvard
your great
University.
university,
Yes.
Harvard.
Yes.
We're driving now the big five, one of which is about leadership. Because Africa is owning the 21st century, why don't we partner? And that's exactly what we're doing right now. We're building a leadership institute together with Harvard University, so that when you're born, and when you're listening and watching this show, and you live in Mukuru, and you just experience these massive floods, and you think, you know what, I have a dream. I want to go to the top.
Yeah.
Come to University of Nairobi. Follow this leadership institute and set yourself up to live your dreams. I think that's extremely inspiring. What do you think about that, Catherine?
It's inspiring.
Exactly.
I mean,
Yes.
the doors that open for as many people as you can,
Precisely.
why not?
Why not?
I love
Exactly.
it. And to partner with a university as prestigious as Harvard University, I mean, well done to you.
Yeah, but vice versa. I mean, also, University of Nairobi has a lot to offer.
Yes.
It has great faculty, has very passionate students. I mean, think about you said you're a scholar. Yes, I am a scholar.
Yeah.
Think about the numbers. 2050, you will still be very young. I will be very old at the age of 2050. At 2050, 1 in 4 people on this planet will be African, right? 65% of all the arable land which is uncultivated is in Africa.
Yes.
Africa is the youngest continent. This is Africa's century. What do you need to lift up as Africa? You need the best academic institution. What I hope to bring, if anything, to the University of Nairobi, indeed connect to the global stage, but also have this sort of cultural shift to dream big, to go the extra mile. I mean, we don't have to be modest here and grab sort of what is in front of us and say, you know what, we have something to offer. Do you want to dance?
Yeah.
Right?
Ooh, I love that. Let's keep walking to our set, Professor. You know, when you got this appointment as Chancellor, and during that time, because it's a couple of months ago.
It was in January, yeah. I'm 100 days in the job.
100 days?
100 days in the job.
And you have already all these grand plans.
Well, the thing is, the first 100 days I particularly used to listen to faculty, professors, lecturers, business leaders, government, international organizations, but particularly the students. I listened what their vision, what do they need? I mean, and from there I learned, okay, we're doing great things, but we can elevate. Think about it. Artificial intelligence, right? I mean, if you think about, Catherine, big numbers, I mean, even difficult to comprehend. I'm sure also people at home can't even comprehend it. But this decade, the world economy will contribute 15 trillion US dollars on artificial intelligence. But 60% of that artificial intelligence, let's say top researchers, are in the United States. Africa, in essence, is importing artificial intelligence. Should we not turn that equation? And we have a great base to start off from, because in 2023 there were 100 young AI entrepreneurs already here in Nairobi. So what we're going to do at the University of Nairobi, a couple of things. One, we're going to set up, we call it Silicon Savannah. Think about it, Silicon Valley. We're going to link young entrepreneurs, startups, with venture capitalists in one location. Then on top of that, we're going to build the first AI school in Africa, where we're going to work with industry to really transform and to capitalize on this market opportunity. Because again, every single month, and that basically what keeps me awake at night is this statistics. Every single month, 1 million young people across sub-Saharan Africa enter the labor market, but only 1 out of 4 lands a paid formal job. So if you have this growing youth population entering the labor force, what do we need to do to provide the jobs of the future? Not the jobs of the 20th century, but of the 21st century. And again, the University of Nairobi is positioning itself to help the sort of the transformation of this nation. I think that's a very inspiring thing to do. Artificial intelligence, green jobs, and this Silicon Savannah.
And I know there's more, so more initiatives, because I know there are 5.
Indeed.
We'll speak about those too. Now we need to sit.
We will.
We need to go sit and have that conversation. So wouldn't you agree that was just a refreshing walk? We needed to walk, eh?
We needed to walk,
Yeah.
because when you walk, your mind is clearer and even more open.
And it's different.
And quite frankly, when I'm on the phone, which is basically 80% of the day, I'm walking.
Yeah,
Yes, let's go back to ancient Greece. I mean, Socrates and his followers, they walked when they had these deep thought exchanges.
Look at you bringing all your scholarly self to this.
That,
I'm like, ancient Greece, how did you get there?
Yeah.
So I want us to close this conversation of the University of Nairobi. First of all, at the intro you heard me say, it's an unpaid role.
Indeed.
And I also said, if you're doing something for which you can also like do it without getting paid for it, you're good. So there's that which you do almost as a, do I call it, it's voluntary, isn't it?
It's voluntary,
yes.
but I mean, but in a very committed way.
Yes.
It's not sort of I do this
whenever
I have time on
there's
my
vision.
No, but there is. You know why?
Yeah.
Because in the last 20 years, I'm getting of age, I guess. When I traveled across Kenya,
yeah.
Again from Mukuru to Makueni, there is something very particular of this country, which I find extremely inspiring.
What's that?
Which has to do with resilience. Because if you live in Mukuru or any other place in Kenya and you live the floods, which we have been seeing the last few weeks, it's obviously very tough.
Yeah.
But these people build back. When you live the droughts last year and the years before, and you are sort of a pastoralist in the northern part of Kenya, it's very tough. But these people, they have the resilience. I find it incredibly inspiring to be in Kenya, because the people of Kenya have something very unique compared to other nations.
What's that?
Well, this sense of resilience and calmness and forward-leaning, right? Yes, of course, there are all sorts of issues in the political domain and what have you. That's any, let's say, robust democracy has that.
Yeah.
But this sort of, when you're in Kenya, when you need a Kenyan, whether it's your cameraman or you brought a team of people in the hotel or at the university, you know in Kenya, because there is this sort of proudness, but also this sense of we move forward.
Yeah.
Because what we don't want, Catherine, I think what we should not want is that the great minds and the great hearts of this country, that they go for their postdoctoral research, they go to the United States. And they have every right to do so, but do they come back?
No.
Some of them don't. Actually, most of them
Majority don't.
Would it not be better to provide the facilities here, that they get sort of all the opportunities to go to greatness in Nairobi, in the country? And also the point is this. The University of Nairobi, as you know, Catherine, and as of course the viewers know, is one of over 40 public universities. So this Big Five agenda, again, on innovation, on artificial intelligence, on green jobs, on leadership, on health, is in essence, is a universal agenda. So what we're looking for, what is our offering to the other universities here in this nation, they're great in and of their own right. Where can we partner? What do you do great? What do you do better as us? Do it. Let's partner on that as well. So it's not just sort of in a very isolated way, University of Nairobi and nobody else. No, to the contrary. This is sort of a shared platform which we're building in real time. University of Nairobi in the world and sort of this transmission belt to the world, but also in Kenya. We believe, I believe, that the University of Nairobi can be this engine for Africa as a whole. So if we were to have another conversation, comes September 20th, which is just a few months away, Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, who you may know is the 8th Secretary General of the United Nations, he comes to Nairobi, to the University of Nairobi, on the invitation of President Ruto to put his support behind the Big Five. If we would have another conversation on December 13th, another couple of months away, the head of the International Monetary Fund, the president of the African Development Bank, these global champions come to Nairobi to put support to the Big Five. What we don't want is just words. I mean, I think this is great. No, we want concrete, tangible partnerships from partners outside the country, but also from partners inside the country. Let me give you one example. One example before I bore you.
No, it's not.
Let me give you one example. Take green jobs, right? You and I know that the floods which we're seeing in the last few weeks has something to do with climate change. Maybe some people don't know exactly how it sort of relates, but there is a correlation. You and I know that the droughts which we saw the last few years has something to do with climate change. We know that the world is sort of in the middle of the climate emergency, but Africa is ground zero. So against that reality, the new jobs in the 21st century is in the green industrialization. So the conversation which I would love to have with business champions is, so if you're a CEO of a company here in Kenya, and you want to grab the opportunity of the green industrial revolution, what are the skill gaps which you see on the labor market, which you cannot hire? And then I would say, let's develop that curriculum together, industry and academia. But in return, the deal is, if we develop it together, once these folks graduate from the Kenya Green Job Center, you have a commitment to absorb them into your labor force. I think that is the type of sort of partnership which we're looking for. The initial conversation we had to date were extremely rewarding, but now we just want to capitalize it. It's one thing to have a conversation, it's one thing to have a conversation today. It's something else to land a partnership, signing on the dots, have the practical program, and get running with it.
So what I hear from you is, first, the relationship has to be symbiotic.
Indeed.
So it's, you know, put your money where your mouth is, and see this commitment to the end.
Indeed.
And failure to which, what happens?
We don't do failure. Putting University of Nairobi on the global map to be the best university on the African continent, of course it's going to be hard. We're not going to do that tonight or tomorrow, but that's not impossible. So I think that's the motion which we launched. This is a movement. Everyone needs to get on board. And I mean, my basic 2 cents would be, let's get on with it.
Ooh, because we don't do failure.
We don't do failure.
We don't do failure over here on What's Your Story. We have had an incredible conversation about his vision on the University of Nairobi as Chancellor. We come back from the break and get to know the other side of what he does, which is CEO of the Global Center on Adaptation. So you had him mention about climate, what's happening with the climate changes. So what is the adaptation? We need to adapt our world, so to speak. So we need to come to that and get to understand what is the role we play as individuals. At all. You're very, very strong spiritually then.
If you lose your mother when you're 11 years old, if your father remarries not once, not twice, but 3 times, if you go through all the motions in a family which doesn't have money, and then you survive and thrive. If I compare myself with the people living in Mukuru, if I compare myself with the people living in Makweni, we're struggling on a daily basis, right? Who am I to feel self-pity? I mean, come on. It's that notion which was instilled by me by my late mother, let's get on with it and make a difference.
The University of Nairobi held a Chancellor's event where Professor Patrick launched the Big 5 agenda.
I'm in this job as Chancellor for 100 days. I've listened and I've learned. So, the Big 5, I call number 1, Silicon Savannah. Nairobi is the startup capital in Africa, but it has so much untapped potential. Number 2, green jobs. Kenya is a global leader in the green industrialization. And that's a very smart move. Why? Because the jobs of the future are very different of the jobs of the last century in the fossil fuel industry. So we as University of Nairobi, we're gonna launch the first Kenya Green Job Center. Number 3, we just heard about it. Artificial intelligence. 2030. The world economy will add 15 trillion US dollars from the AI sector alone. It's time for AI to come home to Africa, to Kenya. The 4th one, leadership. All of you here in this room, you do not need to be convinced about the importance of leaders, of leadership, because that's what you do on a daily basis. The 5th one, health. Kenya has made tremendous progress in the last years on all health indicators. Right? Think about it. What if we double our lab capacities? What if we scale our research? What if we invest in clinical trials? What if we partner with leading institutions? That, ladies and gentlemen, these 5 interconnected initiatives is the big 5. We, students, faculty, partners, government, there is only one way, is to deliver.
The Prime Cabinet Secretary of Kenya, Honorable Musalia Mudavadi, was the chief guest.
Gratitude to Chancellor Verkooijen for inviting me to be part of this special event to celebrate the unveiling of the Big 5 transformational initiatives that will propel the University of Nairobi to a fit-for-purpose, sustainable and resilient future. This demonstrates how the university is keeping tabs with the government and the international community, particularly on sustainability interventions geared towards building institutional resilience. It further reinforces the education reforms that His Excellency President William Ruto envisaged when he appointed the Presidential Working Party on Education Reform in September 2022.
The event was graced by students from the University of Nairobi, diplomats and government officials, all in solidarity to push the agenda of moving the University of Nairobi to top ranks internationally. Welcome back to the program. This is What's Your Story? I'm Catherine Mwangi. We're here on part 2 of a intriguing, soul-stirring conversation with the CEO of Global Center on Adaptation and also the Chancellor of the iconic University of Nairobi here in Kenya. In part 1 of the show, just in case you're tuning in now, we got to learn what the Chancellor's Big 5 agenda is, and we've heard what his heart and his passion and his mind is towards just making this university an African global centerpiece as far as education is concerned. Of course, not forgetting the importance of collaboration and synergies with international partners, both locally and also internationally. So now we get to what I like to call maybe the white elephant in the room, which is when you were appointed.
Okay, sorry.
No, when you were appointed, there was controversy around it. And I know I said to the viewers that, you know, we're coming to your work and role as CEO of GCA, but I just want us to touch on that bit.
Yeah.
So there's controversy over your appointment.
Yeah, which I fully understand.
Okay.
I mean, first, appointing a chancellor is given the role of a chancellor of the best university in the country. I mean, you said the iconic university. Yes. It has a lot of public interest. 1, 2, appointing a non-Kenyan, but not just a non-Kenyan, a non-African. Not just a non-Kenyan and a non-African, the first non-Kenyan non-African to the chancellor role obviously raises eyebrows. I mean, I totally get that.
Get it.
And so from that perspective, I really understand this. But my thinking is this, right? What do we think is sort of, when you graduate, you have a great cameraman who is a graduate, as I understand, from the Faculty of Journalism, right? When you graduate from the University of Nairobi, there are 3 things which we hope will be in you as a graduate. 1 is critical thinking. 2nd is problem solving. But the 3rd piece is you will be a global citizen. Right? Given that sort of the intent is to transform the University of Nairobi, not just as a Kenyan an institution, not just as an African institution, but as a global institution. It's not completely out of the ordinary to appoint a global citizen, which you clearly are, but I also consider myself a global citizen. So you call it indeed the white elephant in the room, but I would say this is not about color. This is not about which tribe you represent. This is what you bring to the table.
Right. Admirable. Yeah. Admirable. So as Chief Executive Officer of the Global Center on Adaptation, first tell us what your organization is about.
Yes. Think about it. Climate change. You, of course, we're living here because in Kenya, we're in the front line of the climate emergency, right? We live it. I don't need to explain to people at home that the climate emergency is not an imagination, it's here. But the sad reality, what makes me sad, is Kenya did not cause the climate breakdown.
Okay.
Africa did not cause the climate breakdown. Think about it from a global perspective. Africa contributes 3% of greenhouse gas emissions, but is the big victim of the climate emergency. There is a gross injustice in the world where Africa is suffering but is not contributing. It's basically a climate apartheid regime where the North is polluting and Africa is paying. So, against that background, what is the way forward, Catherine? Obviously, the world as a whole needs to lower the carbon footprint. But Kenya and Africa is hardly emitting, so there's not much Africa in and of itself can do. But still, this country, this administration said, well, we will do our part in terms of lowering the carbon footprint. But the other part of the equation is, even if the carbon emissions would be lowering in the coming years, we're already living the impacts today: droughts, floods, storms, heat waves. So we need to adapt to that reality.
Yes.
We put on the table, together with your president, President Ruto, the largest adaptation program in the world for Africa. It's $25 billion US dollars over 5 years. And that money comes from the global north. So we are very simple and practical as I am. We attract money from the global north to invest in Africa.
So far, how much have you been able to raise?
8.4 billion US dollars in 2 years. 8.4 US billion dollars in 2 years. And you say, well, that's a lot of money, and it is. That's incredible, and it is.
Yeah.
That's what we didn't expect, but we did.
Yeah.
So I think we have over-delivered as opposed to over-promised.
Yes.
But it's by far not enough.
Oh.
How much does Africa as a whole need on an annual basis to adapt to the climate change, to change the agriculture sector, to change the infrastructure? Is in the order of $100 billion a year to be really resilient to the climate shocks. How much is flowing on an annual basis today is $10 billion. So there needs to be a tenfold increase. So yes, again, we are very humbled by the achievements which we have achieved.
Yes.
But no space, Catherine, for complacency here. It's not just climate narrow, it's about climate development, jobs, growth. This is the prosperity agenda of the 21st century, and that's how we just positioning the climate agenda, because it simply makes economic sense to invest.
Yeah. So how many countries have you
invested in?
Yes.
In Africa, 28.
20.
In
Ooh.
28 countries to date during just the last 2 years. Well, but the thing is this, there are more countries than 28 in Africa.
Yes.
Hence, there are also countries which we haven't served to date. So again here, we're scaling up our resources, we're scaling up our engagement. And that's why I was so grateful that it was President Ruto came to the floating office. He said, Patrick, this is fantastic. Is it really floating? I said, yes, Mr. President, it's floating. Actually, it's on the water in the largest port in Europe. It goes up 2 meters a day, it goes down 2 meters. He said, this is something which we also need in Nairobi. Obviously, we don't have the water to float on.
Right.
But I want to have a nature-based office of the Global Center on Adaptation as the Africa office in Nairobi, which we agreed on. Not just for the sake of having an office here, But it is much better to have Africa-led, Africa-owned institutions and solutions driving this agenda. So we're now in very advanced conversation with this administration to start building our Africa office, and it would be fantastic if you were to be there during our grand opening anytime soon.
So the HQ will be here for GCA.
Indeed.
Well done.
Yes. So, no, please.
How do you measure the impact that you've had in these 28 countries?
Yeah. So my level of impact is not numbers alone.
Okay.
It is about the people living on the front line. Is this smallholder farmer in Verkooijen, does he get the drought tolerant seeds or not? So we're looking at concrete impact on the ground, and that's how we are judging ourselves, indicators. Again, the same dashboard as I referenced as the Chancellor of the University.
UN,
I want to see concrete progress. To move the needle, look at the data, look at the progress. But at the end of the day, this is a people's agenda. And at the end of the day, we want to be held accountable whether or not we have lifted the lives and livelihood of the people here in this nation and across Africa. But we're a global organization, right? So it's not just Africa. Africa is our principal continent, but we're also operating in Asia, we're operating in Central America and Latin America, we're operating in the small island development states. So it's a very full agenda, but it's again here, it's a very rewarding agenda to be very focused about.
Yeah. So when you're all over the place, you know, you're traveling, you're getting support, partnerships, signing collaborations. There's University of Nairobi, there's GCA, there's your family, of course, and there's, you know, the need for just being grounded and anchored, so you're able to do all of those things.
Yes.
So how do you do that?
How do I do that? By being very mindful of why I am on this planet. What is my, we all have contributions to make. What is my little contribution in life? I've now focused on climate change and higher education. Why? Because I'm trained as an academic in that field. I'm fairly good at it. And there's also an agenda where sort of the biggest bang for its buck can be made in my sort of little lifetime. And that basically is, for me, extremely rewarding. Can I do better? Yes. Can I do more? Yes. But, Catherine, I give it my best. I give it everything what I have. And that's how I live my life. As you said in the beginning of the show, are you a 1 or a 0? I said yes, it's either a 1 or a 0.
0, Yes. What does a bad day look like for you?
I don't have bad days. No, and you know why? This sounds very sort of, oh, I'm from Hollywood, we don't do bad days. No. What I mean with that, every day has a reason. No day comes back. I want to have an impact every single day. So I'm not wasting time and I'm going to bars and that's not what I do. That's not my life. Other people do and I think it's fantastic. I want to have an impact. So some days are more impactful obviously than other days. But I mean, again, I give it my best and I'm grateful at the end of the day what has been achieved. And if it's a day with sort of marginal impact, it motivates me even more to the next day. Okay, step it up, Patrick, double down.
So you never have a pity party when things don't go right? No? At all? You're very, very strong spiritually then.
If you lose your mother when you're 11 years old, if your father remarries not once, not twice, but 3 times, if you go through all the motions in a family which doesn't have money, and then you survive and thrive. If I compare myself with the people living in Mukuru, if I compare myself with people living in Verkooijen, we're struggling on a daily basis, right? Who am I to feel self-pity? I mean, come on. It's that notion which was instilled by me by my late mother, let's get on with it and make a difference.
That's amazing. So you said you have 5 kids?
Indeed.
Married?
Indeed.
So when do your kids see you?
I'm at home, and when I'm at home, I invest in my children because it's work, it's kids, it's work, it's kids.
Yeah.
And I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What would they say about you? How do they describe you?
That's a very good question. Very hands-on.
Okay.
Very determined. Goofy. Maybe.
Oh, okay.
But I hope they would say when I'm no longer here on this earth, I would just say, Dad, you gave it your best. You're not perfect, but you're a good guy. So that's what I aspire in life.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
So just you're a good guy. Imperfect, but you're good.
Imperfect for sure.
That's pretty cool. Yeah. So, so you said earlier that you love football. You could have been a football player.
I could not, because I didn't have sufficient talent. I was very focused. I was very energetic. I thought I was a world star player, but at some time you realize other players are better.
Okay.
And then again, the 1 and the 0. The moment I realized that, I quit.
Oh?
I just quit all along. I thought, you know, this is not going to work. I'm not going to do sort of suboptimal football, something.
Wait, so when you feel you're not at par with anything, you drop it? You don't strive?
But I mean, it's not that I just have 10 hobbies or 20 things. In life, I honestly believe it's not about the skills which you bring to the table or how intelligent you are or how smooth you are. Are you a hard worker? Are you determined? Because this hard work and determination can bring you very far.
Wow. So we're about to close, but before you do that, when we went to break, I had said that you'd be telling us what we do as individuals in our little communities, in our little families. I know in Kenya we've been planting trees every 3 months, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, no, I will come back to that,
Yeah. What's the more we can do?
Climate change is a global phenomenon, right? It needs to be addressed at the global level first. I mean, the money needs to come from the global north, goes to the global south, and it needs to be delivered, so to say. But it is also very local, because the impacts are felt local. What I found, I was last September, remember there was this Africa Climate Summit, and the world came to Nairobi to talk about Africa solutions.
Yes.
I had the privilege of going to Mukuru. And not just me, it was with Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, again the 8th Secretary General of the United Nations. It was with the Minister of Foreign Affairs of France and the Minister of Denmark. And I deliberately took them to Mukuru because the droughts, the floods, the heat, the storms, obviously if you want to sort of upgrade Mukuru, who knows best on what needs to be done, when and how, are the people who are living in Mukuru. Right. So what they have done, they have developed a so-called people's adaptation plan. So we as Global Center on Adaptation work with the people of Mukuru to develop their priorities. But again, Catherine, if you have a plan, it's great to understand what needs to be done. But if nobody is doing it, so what we did since then, we compared that plan and we linked it to the international financial institutions. So if you are the World Bank, if you are the African Development Bank, if you are the International Monetary Fund, and you want to invest in this instance in Mukuru, here it is. So it is not just what can be done alone on the global level or just at the local level. Also here, I think sort of the key message of our conversation is, where can we find smart linkages from local to global, from global to local, within Kenya, across Africa, business, government, civil society. There's lots to play for if we align all these forces in a very, very determined way.
I see that. Okay, so we're saying goodbye, but not before I have quick fire for you. Just maybe 4 questions.
4 questions?
Super quick fire.
Okay, yeah. Well,
you're hydrating
okay,
first?
No, let me do it with my throat. Yeah.
You don't need to be prepped, so it's fine. Okay.
Bring it on.
What music do you listen to?
Prince.
Oh, favorite song by Prince?
Purple Rain.
Are you a rock star? Like, I didn't expect.
I am not. It's my history, it's my youth. Prince, Purple Rain.
Okay, favorite food?
Spaghetti bolognese.
Oh yes, me too, I love that. Okay, favorite movie?
Ooh, I never watch movies.
Oh, ever?
Oh, of course, ever.
Okay, maybe actor, favorite actor?
Denzel Washington.
Oh, is it?
It is. Another question, favorite book?
No, I'm not
I have that one for you.
Which one?
It's for the viewers to look up. Every man dies alone.
Wow. Favorite vacation spot?
Favorite vacation? First with my children. It's something to do with sports and active.
Okay.
And nature.
Ah, yes. I was gonna like get on you if you didn't say nature.
Yeah.
Because of what your work is. Yeah. Okay. Opera or concerts?
Concerts.
No.
Yes.
You're the complete opposite of what. So concerts.
Concerts.
Interesting. Interesting. Okay. Favorite color?
Blue. Dark.
This is your personal branding thing going on.
This is my favorite.
All your photos have just this look.
Because I like it.
Yeah.
Is that not great? I mean, wearing something which you like?
Of course. Exactly. Of course. This is a good look. So is it one designer?
It's one designer, yeah.
Yeah, who?
Dutch. Suit Supply.
Okay. I want you to look into this camera. This show, we inspire, we elevate. So what you said earlier about once you put the big 5 into action, then yes, people can come. But even before all of that happens, what is the thing that you leave us with?
The future is particularly bright in Africa. Why? This is Africa's century. With 65% of uncultivated land, with great entrepreneurial spirit, with the youngest population worldwide. The future is bright, but it requires determination. It requires determination on your side that you go after your goals, but at the same time it requires partnership. We as University of Nairobi, we as Global Center on Adaptation, we want to be your trusted partner, but we have to work together to lift. My strong advice would be, we don't do failure, we don't do no, we just do yes, we just go forward.
That was stirring. And if you have any feedback for Patrick, how do they find you?
So patrick.verkooijen@gca.org is my email address, and I appreciate if people just come with great and bold ideas.
Yes.
Come forward. I can't promise that I will adhere and deliver on all these great ideas.
Yeah.
But I can promise that I will respond to these emails.
Yes.
So yes.
So his email and also on X is at GC Adaptation. So when you get on that handle, you'll find everything they do there. And of course, also at UON, that's also on X. So he's very accessible and available. You write, he will read it, then and he will respond. So we tick everything. Until next week, you do take care of yourselves.